The vast emptiness of space lit up with multiple flashes as the Galactic Empire's diplomatic fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth's solar system. The fleet, consisting of 5 sleek silver vessels, moved with practiced precision toward the third planet from the Sun. Their arrival had been detected long before they made their presence known. Admiral Wilson stood at Earth's orbital command center, watching the approaching ships with practiced calm. After 30 years of service, he had prepared for this moment his entire career. Earth's hidden defense grid remained powered down, masked by technology that made them appear as simple communications satellites to outside observers. "They're sending a transmission," reported Lieutenant Adams from her console. "Standard first contact protocols." Wilson nodded, maintaining his composure. "Accept the transmission. Let's see what the mighty Empire has to say." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Empire's head diplomat. The alien appeared humanoid, but with metallic-looking skin and eyes that seemed to glow from within. He spoke in perfect English, thanks to their universal translators. "Greetings, planet Earth. I am head diplomat Reed of the Galactic Empire. We have come to welcome you into our grand civilization." Wilson noticed the subtle condescension in Reed's tone. The Empire clearly expected to find another primitive world to add to their collection. They hadn't done their homework. "Welcome to Earth's space, head diplomat Reed," Wilson responded professionally. "We've been expecting you. Would you like to dock at our orbital station for face-to-face negotiations?" The slight widening of Reed's glowing eyes showed his surprise. Most primitive planets didn't have orbital stations. "You have orbital docking capabilities." "Of course," Wilson replied casually. "We'll transmit the coordinates and docking protocols. Our artificial gravity matches standard galactic specifications." The Empire's delegation arrived at the station an hour later. Their faces barely concealed their shock at the advanced technology surrounding them. The station's halls were clean and efficient, staffed by both humans and advanced AI robots that moved with fluid grace. In the main conference room, Wilson sat across from Reed and his team. The wall-to-wall windows showed Earth below, its night side glittering with city lights, orbital platforms, and the constant movement of space traffic. "Your development level is unexpected," Reed admitted, examining a cup of perfectly replicated Empire tea that Earth's molecular synthesizers have produced. "Our surveys indicated a much more primitive civilization." Wilson smiled. "Perhaps your surveys need updating. Earth has been space-capable for quite some time now. We've been watching, learning, and preparing." "Preparing?" Reed's tone sharpened. "For what?" "For this meeting," Wilson replied smoothly. "We know the Empire's standard procedures. First contact, followed by diplomatic pressure, then demands for submission, and if refused." He left the sentence hanging. Reed's metallic face showed no emotion, but his aides shifted uncomfortably. "The Empire brings peace and prosperity to all worlds under its protection." "Protection implies threat," Wilson observed. "Earth needs no protection. We would, however, welcome peaceful trade and cultural exchange as equals." The Empire delegation exchanged glances. This wasn't following their usual script. Most worlds they contacted were eager to join, seeking the Empire's advanced technology and protection. They had never encountered a civilization that had developed so quietly, hidden in plain sight. "We will need to consult with Empire Command," Reed said finally. "Your level of development changes the standard protocols." Wilson nodded. "Of course. Take all the time you need. Earth's people are patient. We've waited this long to reveal ourselves." As the Empire delegation prepared to leave, Wilson added one last comment. "Head diplomat Reed, you might want to mention to your superiors that Earth has never lost a war. It's just a historical fact they might find interesting." Reed paused at the door, studying Wilson's calm expression. For the first time, he felt a flutter of uncertainty. The human's words carried no threat, but something in his tone suggested deep confidence. As the Empire ships departed the station, Wilson watched them go. Lieutenant Adams stood beside him. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "Yes," Wilson agreed, "with demands. And when those demands come—" He turned away from the window. "Well, we tried to be diplomatic. Let's hope they're smarter than they appear." The Empire ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system as quietly as they had entered it. Below, on the planet's surface, life continued as normal. But in hidden facilities across the globe, ancient war machines began their quiet warm-up sequences. Earth would be ready, whether the Empire chose peace or war. The Empire's return came sooner than expected. 3 days after the first contact, their diplomatic fleet reappeared, this time with twice as many ships. The message they broadcast was clear and direct. Earth was to submit to Empire protection and control. In the same conference room where they had first met, head diplomat Reed now stood, his metallic features set in stern lines as he delivered the Empire's terms. "Earth will benefit greatly from Imperial guidance," Reed declared. "Your technology shows promise, but you lack the experience of a true galactic civilization. Submit now, and the transition will be peaceful." Wilson sat at the conference table, appearing relaxed despite the implied threat. Around him, other Earth representatives watched silently. On the table between them lay an old, battered history book. "Before you continue," Wilson interrupted, pushing the book forward, "we'd like you to review something. This is a record of Earth's last major conflict." Reed glanced at the book dismissively. "Primitive paper records. Surely you have more advanced data storage." "We do," Wilson agreed, "but sometimes old things carry more weight. This details World War II, just one of many conflicts in our history. Please, take a moment to read about the Pacific Theater." Reluctantly, Reed began to scan the pages. His expression shifted from boredom to confusion, then to carefully hidden concern as he read about nuclear weapons, massive naval battles, and the scale of destruction humans had achieved even with primitive technology. "This was nearly 200 years ago," Wilson continued, "when we could barely leave our atmosphere. Would you like to see what we can do now?" Without waiting for a response, he activated the room's holographic display. Images appeared. Massive space carriers hidden in asteroid belts, weapon systems that could destabilize stars, and defense grids that could shred entire fleets. "These are just the systems we're willing to show you," Wilson said quietly. "Earth united not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Our history taught us harsh lessons about war." Reed's aide, clearly disturbed, whispered something in his ear. The head diplomat's glowing eyes had narrowed to slits. "Are you threatening the Empire?" he demanded. "Not at all," Wilson replied calmly. "We're warning you. There's a difference. Humanity doesn't want war. We've had enough of it. But if pushed," he gestured to the book, "we're very, very good at it." The holographic display shifted to show a live fire exercise in the Kuiper Belt. A single Earth vessel, smaller than any in the Empire fleet, demonstrated weapons that bent space itself. An asteroid the size of a small moon vanished into a localized singularity. "That's our obsolete technology," Lieutenant Adams added from her position by the door. "The stuff we're willing to let people see." Reed's metallic fingers traced the book's pages describing the atomic bombing of Japan. "Your species," he started, then stopped, choosing his words carefully. "You seem civilized, yet you possess such capacity for destruction." "We are civilized precisely because we understand destruction," Wilson corrected. "Earth doesn't want to join your empire. We don't need your protection. What we want is peaceful cooperation between equals." "The Empire does not negotiate with," Reed began, but Wilson cut him off. "Yes, you do. You're going to negotiate with us, or you're going to learn why every species that's ever tried to conquer Earth has failed. We've spent decades preparing for this moment." Head diplomat Reed, "Don't make us show you why." The silence that followed was heavy with tension. Outside the windows, Earth's defense grid remained invisible but ready. Thousands of weapon systems tracked every Empire ship, though their sensors would detect nothing. Finally, Reed closed the history book. "I will convey your position to Empire Command. But be warned, the Empire has never failed to acquire a world it set its sights on." Wilson stood, his expression grave. "Then perhaps it's time for the Empire to learn a new way. For everyone's sake, I hope they choose wisely." As the Empire delegation departed, Wilson watched their ships disappear into hyperspace. Lieutenant Adams approached with a datapad. "They're mobilizing their border fleets," she reported. Wilson nodded, unsurprised. "Activate Phase 2. Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with." Throughout the solar system, hidden sensors tracked the Empire ship's departure. Earth had done its best to warn them. What came next would be the Empire's choice and their responsibility. The Empire's response came 1 week later in the form of a disciplinary fleet, 50 warships emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Their arrival triggered silent alarms throughout Earth's defense network, but on the surface, life continued unchanged. Admiral Wilson stood in the strategic command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the tactical display with dozens of military leaders from around the world. The Empire ships moved in a standard attack formation, clearly visible to Earth's quantum sensors. "They really didn't listen, did they?" General Thompson remarked, shaking his head. "Typical Empire arrogance." Wilson picked up his coffee cup, his movements unhurried. "Send the final warning." Lieutenant Adams, now stationed at the primary communications array, transmitted the message. "Empire Fleet, this is Earth Command. You are entering protected space. Reverse course immediately. This is your only warning." The Empire's response came quickly, broadcast on all frequencies. The fleet commander's voice dripped with contempt. "Primitive worlds do not give orders to the Empire. Prepare for subjugation." Wilson sighed, setting down his coffee. "Very well. Activate the Artemis grid." Throughout the solar system, seemingly innocent satellites and asteroid mining stations transformed. Quantum shields shimmered into existence around Earth and its colonies. Hidden weapon platforms emerged from dimensional pockets where they had waited for decades. The Empire fleet faltered, their sensors suddenly overwhelmed by the appearance of thousands of defense platforms. Before they could react, Wilson gave the order. "Execute containment protocol. Non-lethal measures only. Let's show them what they're dealing with." Earth's defense grid came alive. Precise graviton beams targeted the Empire ship's engines, while quantum fields disrupted their weapons systems. Advanced AI systems predicted and countered every tactical move before the Empire could execute them. "Sir," Adams reported, "their shields are based on outdated Centaurian technology. Our systems are bypassing them completely." The Empire fleet tried to scatter, but it was too late. Specialized tractor beams caught each ship, holding them in place. Their weapons fire dissipated harmlessly against Earth's quantum shields. In the command center, Wilson watched as the tactical display showed Empire ships being systematically disabled. Not destroyed, just rendered completely helpless. "Their commander is requesting communication," Adams announced. Wilson nodded. "Put them through." The Empire fleet commander appeared on screen, his metallic face twisted with a mixture of rage and disbelief. This is impossible. You're supposed to be a primitive world." "We tried to warn you," Wilson replied calmly. "Earth has spent generations preparing for encounters like this. We studied your technology, your tactics, your strengths and weaknesses. Everything you've thrown at us today is technology we mastered and improved upon decades ago." The commander's glowing eyes widened. "But our sensors, our surveys, showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Wilson finished. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet in seconds. Instead, we chose to disable it. A demonstration, if you will." Around them, Earth's defense platforms continued their work. Empire ships hung motionless in space, their crews unharmed but their vessels completely powerless. What do you want?" the commander asked, his arrogance replaced by uncertainty. Wilson leaned forward. The same thing we wanted from the beginning. Peaceful cooperation between equals. Take this message back to your empire. Earth will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated. But we are willing to be friends. With a gesture, Wilson ordered the release of one ship, the commander's vessel. Its power systems reactivated, allowing it to move freely. Take your fleet home, Wilson instructed. Your ships will be towed to the edge of our solar system. Remember what you saw here today. Remember that we chose peace when we could have chosen destruction. The Empire commander stared at the tactical display, watching as his mighty fleet hung helpless in space. The Empire will not forget this, he warned. Good, Wilson replied. That's exactly what we want. Now go. Tell them what humanity is capable of. And remind them, this was us being gentle. As the commander's ship prepared to leave, Wilson turned to his staff. Prepare for Phase 4. The Empire won't take this humiliation lightly. Sir, Adams asked, do you think they'll finally listen? Wilson watched as the Empire commander's ship vanished into hyperspace. They better. Because next time, we might not be so nice about it. Throughout the solar system, Earth's defense grid remained active, its true capabilities still hidden. The Empire had made their first mistake. Earth was determined to make sure it would be their last. 3 days after the disciplinary fleet's defeat, long-range sensors detected a massive hyperspace disturbance. The Empire had deployed its main battle fleet, over 500 warships, including their feared planet crackers. In Earth's strategic command, Wilson watched the incoming armada with a grim expression. They still think this is about military might. Activate the sleeper protocols. Throughout Empire space, hidden human agents who had been positioned years ago received their signals. Countless seemingly innocent civilian contractors, merchants, and maintenance workers began their carefully planned operations. Strike teams are in position, Lieutenant Adams reported, waiting for your command. Wilson nodded. Execute Operation Checkmate. Across thousands of light years, the Empire's supposedly secure supply lines erupted in chaos. Maintenance robots turned against their masters. Navigation beacons failed, sending supply ships into empty space. Ammunition depots mysteriously exploded. Food storage facilities found their contents suddenly contaminated. The Empire's main battle fleet, already en route to Earth, received desperate distress calls from their home systems. Their fleet is slowing, Adams announced. They're getting reports of the attacks. In the Empire's capital, their military command was discovering a horrifying truth. Humans had infiltrated every level of their society. Their computer systems were compromised. Their secure communications were being broadcast on public channels. Their automated defense systems were turning against them. The Empire fleet commander's face appeared on the main screen, rage barely contained. What have you done? Wilson stood calmly before the display. We warned you. Humanity knows war in ways you cannot imagine. Your fleet is impressive, but while you were building bigger ships, we were learning to fight smarter. You'll pay for this treachery, the commander snarled. Treachery. Wilson raised an eyebrow. We spent decades watching you conquer peaceful worlds. Did you think Earth would just wait for its turn? Every maintenance contract your empire signed with Shell Corporation. That was us. The Robertson Trading Company that supplies your fleet. Also us. We've been preparing for this day since before you knew we existed. On the tactical display, more reports flooded in. Empire shipyards found their gravity generators failing. Space stations discovered their life support systems mysteriously rerouted. Fuel supplies were discovered to be contaminated with nano-saboteurs. Your empire thinks in terms of fleets and armies, Wilson continued. We think in terms of victory before the first shot is fired. Look around you, Commander. You've already lost, and we haven't even fired a weapon. The Empire commander's face showed the first signs of fear. Impossible. No species could have infiltrated us so completely. We did it because you never considered us a threat, Wilson explained. Your arrogance was your weakness, Every time you dismissed a primitive world, you gave us another opening. Every time you looked down on lesser species, you failed to see the knife at your throat. Throughout Empire space, carefully planned chaos continued to spread. Their mighty war machine was grinding to a halt, not from battle damage, but from 1,000 small failures and accidents. "What do you want?" the commander finally asked, his pride broken. "The same thing we wanted from the beginning. Peaceful coexistence. Return your fleet to Empire space. Deal with us as equals." Or, Wilson let the threat hang unspoken. On the tactical display, more Empire systems reported critical failures. Their carefully ordered society was unraveling in ways their military might couldn't prevent. "The Empire does not surrender," the commander declared, but his voice lacked conviction. Wilson shook his head. "This isn't about surrender. It's about survival. Your empire can survive this lesson, or it can fall. The choice is yours." As if to emphasize his point, the Empire flagship's engines suddenly shut down, their secret backdoors finally activated. Across the massive fleet, ships began reporting system failures. "Think carefully about your next move, Commander," Wilson advised. "Because while you're watching our solar system, your empire is falling apart behind you. And this is still us being merciful." The commander stared at his own failing systems, then at the reports of chaos throughout Empire space. For the first time in the Empire's history, they faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior firepower. As the Empire fleet hung powerless in space, Wilson turned to his staff. "Prepare for their response. Either they learn from this, or we move to Phase 5. The Empire had escalated the conflict. Now they were learning that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their understanding of war itself. In the Empire's central command center, panic had replaced arrogance. High command gathered in their secure bunker, watching as their mighty civilization unraveled. The Supreme Commander slammed his metallic fist on the holographic display, causing the image to flicker. "How long?" he demanded. "How long have they been watching us?" A junior analyst stepped forward, trembling slightly. "Sir, we found human infiltration dating back 50 Earth years. They were here before we even discovered their world." The revelation hit like a physical blow. The Empire's leadership stared at the mounting evidence on their screens. Humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had mapped out the Empire's entire civilization while remaining invisible. Meanwhile, in Earth's Strategic Command, Wilson received a priority message. "Sir," Adams reported, "our deep cover agents report the Empire has discovered Project Looking Glass." Wilson nodded. Project Looking Glass, humanity's decades-long mission to understand and infiltrate the Empire, had been their masterpiece. Now it was time to reveal just how deep that infiltration went. "Execute Protocol Omega," he ordered. "Let them see everything." Throughout Empire space, hidden quantum processors activated. Every secure database, every classified file, every secret project suddenly displayed on public channels. The Empire's entire intelligence network laid bare for all to see. The Supreme Commander watched in horror as his civilization's most carefully guarded secrets became public knowledge. "Impossible," he whispered. "They're AI systems. They're far beyond anything we have." "Sir," another analyst called out, "we're detecting quantum signatures in our central AI core. They've been there all along, watching, learning." In Earth's command center, Wilson activated a direct channel to Empire High Command. The Supreme Commander's face appeared, showing a mixture of fear and awe. "Now you understand," Wilson said quietly. "Earth didn't just prepare for war. We made sure we couldn't lose before you even knew we existed. Your ships," the Supreme Commander began, "your visible technology. A facade," Wilson confirmed. "While you watched our outdated ships, our quantum AI systems were deep inside your networks. While you measured our weapon systems, we were learning everything about you, every weakness, every vulnerability." The Supreme Commander's metallic features shifted in what passed for their species' expression of defeat. Why reveal this now? Because you needed to understand, Wilson explained. Humanity doesn't want to destroy the Empire. We don't want to rule it. We want you to understand that war with Earth isn't just unwinnable. It's unnecessary. On screens throughout Empire space, more revelations appeared. Human quantum computers had mapped the Empire's entire military response system. They knew every contingency plan, every backup strategy, every hidden resource. Your species, the Supreme Commander said slowly, you're not just warriors. You're strategists on a scale we've never encountered. Wilson nodded. We learned early in our history that the best victories are won without fighting. Your empire builds bigger weapons. We made sure we'd never need to use ours. Throughout the empire, military commanders watched helplessly as their most sophisticated systems responded to human commands. Defensive grids, automated factories, even their vaunted war machines, all had been quietly compromised years ago. What happens now? The Supreme Commander asked. That depends on you, Wilson replied. We're going to withdraw from your systems, slowly, carefully. You'll get your civilization back, piece by piece, and then we can talk about real peace, not submission, not conquest. Peace between equals. In Earth's command center, Adams monitored the Empire's reactions. Sir, their military commands are standing down. They're actually listening. Wilson allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to show your opponent why they can't win. Prepare for Phase 6. We're moving to diplomatic channels. As the Empire's leadership struggled to process their new reality, Earth's hidden systems began their careful withdrawal. They had achieved their goal not through destruction, but through understanding. The Empire had finally learned why peaceful cooperation was their only viable option. The revelation was complete. Now came the hard part, building trust from the ashes of the Empire's shattered pride. The Empire Council chamber had never been so quiet. Hundreds of metallic faces stared at the holographic displays, showing the full extent of human infiltration into their society. The Supreme Commander stood before them, delivering the most difficult briefing in Empire history. The humans, he explained, his voice echoing in the vast chamber, have demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Our military advantage is non-existent. Our technological superiority was an illusion. We must decide our next course of action. A council elder rose, his ancient frame creaking slightly. In 10,000 years, no species has brought the Empire to this point. How do we respond to an enemy we cannot fight? That's where you're wrong, came a new voice. The council turned as Admiral Wilson stepped out of a quantum portal that hadn't existed moments before. Lieutenant Adams stood beside him, holding the simple datapad. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Security forces raised weapons, but found them unresponsive. The Supreme Commander raised a hand for silence. You dare enter the sacred chamber? An elder demanded. We were invited, Wilson replied calmly. By you. 50 years ago, when your automated cleaning system was upgraded by Shell Corporation. He gestured around the room. We've been attending your meetings ever since. Watching, learning, understanding. The council members looked at each other in growing horror. Their most secure location had been compromised for decades. Why are you here now? The Supreme Commander asked. Wilson approached the central platform. Because you need to make a decision, and you need all the facts to make it. Lieutenant Adams activated her datapad. The chamber's holographic systems came alive, showing countless worlds across Empire space. These are the worlds you've conquered, Wilson explained. The species you've subjugated, the civilizations you've absorbed. We've watched you do it, over and over. And we decided, never Earth. The Supreme Commander stepped forward. You've made your point. Earth cannot be conquered. No, Wilson corrected. You're still not understanding. Show them, Lieutenant. Adams tapped her pad again. New images appeared. peaceful worlds, prosperous trade routes, scientific advances that the Empire had never imagined. "This is what cooperation looks like," Wilson continued. "This is what happens when species work together as equals. Your empire has stagnated because you only know conquest. We're offering you something different." An elder scoffed. "The empire does not need." "The empire is dying," Wilson interrupted. "Your conquest model is unsustainable. Your technology has plateaued. Your society is brittle. You know this. You've known it for centuries." The chamber fell silent as the truth of his words sank in. "We could destroy the empire," Wilson continued, "but that would be wasteful. Instead, we're offering partnership, real partnership, not submission disguised as protection." The Supreme Commander studied the images of cooperation. "And if we refuse, then we leave," Wilson said simply. "We pull our quantum systems out of your networks. We take our advanced AI with us. We leave you with the knowledge that we could have destroyed you, but chose not to. And we wait for your empire to collapse under its own weight." The council members exchanged glances, centuries of tradition warred with the undeniable reality before them. "The choice is yours," Wilson concluded. "But consider this. Everything we've shown you, every system we've compromised, every network we've infiltrated, that was us being cautious, being careful. Imagine what humanity could achieve working with you openly." Lieutenant Adams displayed one final image: a galaxy filled with cooperative trade routes, shared scientific discoveries, and peaceful expansion. "Your empire stands at a crossroads," Wilson said. "You can cling to the old ways and fade into history, or you can help us build something new, something better." The Supreme Commander turned to his council. "We must decide, not just for the empire, but for our future." As the council began their deliberations, Wilson and Adams prepared to leave. At the quantum portal, Wilson turned back. "You have one standard day to decide," he said. "Choose wisely. The galaxy is changing. The only question is whether the empire will change with it." The portal closed, leaving the empire's leadership to face the most important decision in their history. The age of conquest was ending. The question was, what would take its place? 24 hours later, Earth's Strategic Command received the Empire's response. The Supreme Commander himself delivered their decision via quantum channel. His metallic features set in what humans had learned was their expression of profound respect. "The Empire Council has deliberated," he announced to Wilson and the assembled Earth leadership. "For the first time in 10,000 years, we choose to walk a different path." In the following weeks, the transformation began. Earth's quantum systems started their careful withdrawal from Empire networks, but not before installing safeguards and cooperation protocols. The process was deliberate, measured, building trust with each successful transition. Lieutenant Adams oversaw the first joint operation, a shared scientific mission to study a newly discovered phenomenon at the galaxy's core. Empire scientists worked alongside human researchers, their different perspectives leading to breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. "It's remarkable," an Empire scientist admitted, watching human quantum computers work in harmony with Empire technology. "We spent millennia conquering when we could have been learning." The changes rippled through Empire space. Subjugated worlds were given autonomy, their unique cultures and innovations finally valued. Trade routes evolved from forced tribute to mutual benefit. The Empire's rigid hierarchy began to flex and adapt. In the Empire's capital, Wilson met with the Supreme Commander 6 months after their decision. The city had changed. Where once there were only Empire citizens, now representatives from dozens of species walked freely. "Your method of conquest was interesting," the Supreme Commander mused, looking out over the transformed cityscape. "You conquered us with peace." Wilson shook his head. "Not conquest, evolution. Your empire was built on the idea that strength comes from dominance. We showed you that real strength comes from cooperation." Throughout the galaxy, the changes continued. Empire warships were retrofitted for exploration and research. Military outposts became trading hubs. The Empire's vast knowledge, accumulated over millennia, was freely shared with their new allies. There are still those who resist, the Supreme Commander admitted. Centuries of tradition don't change overnight. Of course, Wilson agreed. Change is never easy. But look at what we've achieved in just 6 months. He gestured to a holographic display showing the galaxy. Where once there had been rigid borders and military patrols, now there were flowing trade routes and joint scientific missions. The Empire's feared planet crackers had been converted into terraforming platforms, creating new worlds for all species to share. In Earth's Strategic Command, Lieutenant Adams presented the latest reports. The Empire's productivity has increased by 300%. Scientific advancement is off the charts. It turns out when you stop forcing people to submit, they actually want to contribute. The Supreme Commander's next words surprised everyone. We owe humanity an apology. Not for trying to conquer you. That taught you to be strong. We apologize for taking so long to learn from you. Wilson smiled. No apology needed. The galaxy is entering a new age. That's what matters. A year after the Empire's decision, representatives from all species gathered in the Empire's capital. The old council chamber, once a place of rigid hierarchy, now hosted open debates and shared decision-making. The Empire had transformed from conquerors to coordinators, using their vast experience to help manage cooperation rather than enforce submission. Did you know it would work out this way? Lieutenant Adams asked Wilson as they watched the proceedings. We hoped, he replied. That's why we spent 50 years learning everything about them. Not just their weaknesses, but their potential. We saw what the Empire could become if they just looked beyond conquest. The Supreme Commander joined them, his metallic features now bearing the marks of someone who smiled more often. The old Empire would have seen this as defeat. Now we understand it was salvation. Together, they watched as human quantum computers merged with Empire technology, as different species shared their unique perspectives, as the galaxy itself seemed to brighten with possibility. The humans had a saying, Wilson mused. The best victory is the one where nobody loses. The Empire had never lost a war before meeting humanity. In the end, they didn't lose this one either. They simply learned a better way to win. Together. Throughout the galaxy, a new era dawned. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because humanity chose to warn rather than threaten, to guide rather than destroy. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly the point.